Lindsay Lohan is bearing a lot more than her body in the new Vanity Fair magazine. After years of denying she had a weight problem, the super thin star now admits she has been battling bulimia. And that's not the teen idol's only revelation. We'll have details straight ahead as we welcome you back to The Early Show.
Also ahead in Health Watch, I don't know if you guys have heard about this survivor's grief or survivor's guilt. We're going to take a look at the psychological fallout from that West Virginia mine disaster. We're going to speak with Dr. Robert Butterworth about that.
All right, that's coming up a little bit later on in the show, though. First, though, here's Hannah.
Thanks. The mystery of a newlywed who vanished last July from his honeymoon cruise is heating up. Last night, the captain of that ship said that George Smith and his wife Jennifer had been drinking heavily the night that he went missing, and that Jennifer was found passed out. The Smith family says that the captain's comments are just the latest example of the cruise line trying to deflect criticism of how it handled their son's disappearance.
You think your family are a strong unit, and nothing's going to really happen to that unit, but it did.
For Maureen and George Smith, the loss of their only son, George, still seems unreal.
It really hasn't set in yet. I guess when you get home and you settle in and you have to sit in a room and think, it settles in.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. George seemed destined for success. Handsome, charming, a good son.
He was gentle and he was also fun and very serious when he had to be in the business.
George was to take over his father's business, a liquor store, which he had plans to grow.
He added something to the store that everybody loved.
His future seemed even brighter when he married his girlfriend, Jennifer Hagel, on June 25th.
You couldn't believe how nice it was.
And they planned every detail to perfection. It was beautiful.
The newlyweds left for their honeymoon the next day. How did you find out that he had gone missing?
I got a call from Jennifer Hagel's father that something terrible had happened to George on the ship. He was really crying, and we really, really didn't believe that. We thought he was somewhere else on the ship.
Royal Caribbean called the Smiths that first day, but they say the representative offered few details.
No news. Never told us about the blood in the cabin, never told us about the blood on the overhang.
What did they tell you happened, Bree?
Your brother was missing. We don't have any further information.
The Smiths turned to their local congressman for help, and they say it was through his office they learned that blood had been found in George and Jennifer's cabin.
I think that if we had not gotten that information from Congressman Shea's office, we may have believed Royal Caribbean's usual story, which is it's an accident or a suicide.
So how many conversations did you all have with Royal Caribbean?
Very few. And actually the conversations were with their risk management department, which is basically the department that oversees litigation, preventing litigation.
Desperate for answers, Bree started calling authorities overseas, and eventually more details emerged. The day before George disappeared, he and Jennifer had toured the Greek island of Mykonos. That night, back on board the ship, witnesses have said George and Jennifer partied heartily with a group of young men. These men have told authorities that they brought George back alone to his cabin, attempted to help him find Jennifer without success, then returned George a second time back to the cabin and left. But witnesses in the adjacent cabins have described hearing violent activity in the young couple's cabin, and then a loud thud.
The impact, it sounded like something very heavy, and my first thought was maybe throwing furniture overboard.
The following morning, this picture was taken by a teenage passenger of a large blood stain on an overhang just below the newlyweds' balcony. Have you been able to speak with his wife, Jennifer, about the events of that evening?
Unfortunately, she told us that the FBI has asked her to remain quiet about the happenings of that evening.
Whatever happened, George's family insists he would not have started a fight.
He'd walk away from anything. He just wouldn't get into a fight. He had a nature that he would laugh and he'd turn his back and walk away. It must have been something went down big time.
The Smiths were outraged when Royal Caribbean seemed to suggest their son was to blame.
A spokesperson for Royal Caribbean says there's no reason to suspect foul play.
They knew, but they
knew
didn't tell
exactly
us
what had gone down, but they were trying to wash it over and have us feel that, oh, it's been an accident and that's the way it goes, and you just have to face it. They didn't know that we had started our own investigation into it.
Royal Caribbean spokesperson Lynn Martinstein.
We don't know what happened to Mr. Smith. We don't know if it was an accident. We don't know if there was foul play. If we've characterized it in any other way, we shouldn't have.
This investigation was horrible. I mean, from the beginning.
The Smiths have hired attorney Brett Rivkin to sue Royal Caribbean.
We know that this company should have communicated all the information they had, and the FBI should have been told, listen, we may have a murder here. We may have a murder, not, you know, we may have a person missing, we may have had an accident.
Rivkin claims Royal Caribbean washed and painted the blood-stained overhang that morning before the FBI could investigate. Martinstein says the overhang was washed at the end of the day.
You had guests leaning way out over their balconies trying to take pictures of the blood on the canopy. It became an issue of safety. When we were given explicit permission to do so from the Turkish authorities after they'd completed their investigation, we washed it off with a power hose. We've never painted it over. We cooperated with the FBI, the Turkish authorities, and the U.S. consulate throughout that day and to this day.
As the Smiths look at pictures of their beloved son, their sorrow is overshadowed only by determination to find out what happened to George.
We're angry, and I'm going to be hard and angry until I get answers. And then we'll have our memorial service for our son.
Investigators have cleared Jennifer Hagel-Smith in the disappearance of her husband, George. His family, meanwhile, does plan to return to the region in the Mediterranean where their son disappeared in an effort to try and learn something new and also to say goodbye. You can find out more about the investigation on our website at cbsnews.com. And now here's Dave Price with another check of the weather. Good morning again, Dave.
And good morning to you, Hannah. Let's see what's happening in the northwestern corner of the United States, the continental 48 that we're talking about. About an inch of rain possible, maybe some snow in the higher elevations. Other than that, some localized flooding to deal with. But as we head down to California, we're in much better shape and we remain dry. Rest of the country, well, it looks like it's going to be cold in Alaska, 0 to 10 below. Maybe as you head to the southern half of the state, we'll see some teens, and that's about all she wrote there. Hawaii, most temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, and a very nice right across Texas through the Gulf states into Florida, but more warm weather, about 10 degrees above the norm in Texas and Oklahoma. Not great news for that section. All right, that's a quick look at the national map. Here's an early look at what's going on in your area. That's your latest weather. We'll see you outside on the plaza at 8:30, 8 o'clock, in fact, as well. Harry, over to you. A bonus.
Let's see if we can get your schedule straight. All right, good job, Dave. All right, coming up next, Lindsay Lohan comes clean about her troubling weight loss and some other personal demons. A little bit later on, reading, writing, and rewards will tell you why schools are giving students some expensive prizes. And from ski slopes to sunny beaches, the best winter vacation destinations. Why does that sound so good this morning? You're watching The Early Show on CBS.